In the United States, our education system is suffering. Our public schools are falling in worldwide ranking, and other nations are leading the way in elementary and secondary education. Naturally, this has sparked a national debate as to how we should reform our education system to give our children the best education possible. Many people believe that a good first step to resolving this issue is to put any class that doesn't fall into one of the core subject areas, such as math, science, English, or history, on the cutting block. Unfortunately, music classes are often included in the subjects that should be cut. A lot of taxpayers fail to see the value arts education holds in comparison to strictly academic courses. However, music classes do teach something of great importance that the core subject areas do not. Allow me to share a personal anecdote with you. When I was a senior in high school, my music department's spring musical was the show Big Fish. Of all the shows our high school had done over my 4 years, Big Fish had me the most excited. There were fun, raucous moments in the show, but the integral themes were family, death, and how one tells their life story. The main character of the show, who I had the pleasure of playing, is Edward Bloom. Throughout the show, he tells his family members grandiose, unlikely stories about his life before marriage. His son, Will, doesn't believe any of his father's stories, and wishes Edward would just tell him the truth about his life. Then, disaster strikes as Edward is diagnosed with cancer early in the show, with only months to live. Will spends the rest of the narrative scrambling to find out the truth about his father's life before he passes away. By the end of the show, Will and Edward make amends, and Edward sings a song to his wife and son on his deathbed. He gives his last wishes to them and tells them how he wants them to remember him. It is heavy stuff, and it was especially heavy for me. I have struggled with mental illness and with thoughts of suicide for years, and my senior year was especially difficult for me in that regard. Singing to my classmates about how I wished to be remembered after passing away was very, very intense for me. Overall, my experience playing Edward and singing that song could be summed up in one word: vulnerable. I felt the most emotionally vulnerable I had ever felt. The show was a chance for me to fully explore those emotions which were tearing me up inside, and I left the production more emotionally aware and stronger than I had ever felt before. This is the value of music education. Music classrooms provide students a place to be emotionally vulnerable, a trait not often encouraged in traditional academic classrooms. In fact, emotional vulnerability is encouraged in musical forums, as emotional intuition is imperative for high-class musicianship. Raising emotionally sensitive students will help foster a stronger sense of self within them. They will become more confident in their identities, and their emotional strength will help to create a stronger society. In my experience, music has always been a place of emotional vulnerability and of catharsis. The reason I've been drawn to music throughout my education is because it gives me an avenue to express myself in ways that other classes can't. Sometimes, in the middle of your hectic school day, you just need some time to let all of your emotions out and to create something beautiful. Becoming emotionally vulnerable has also led to me becoming more emotionally aware. Emotional awareness isn't something directly taught by our school system, and I think that music classrooms provide students a venue to explore that part of themselves. In addition, I think that music programs should allot time for open dialogue about the music being performed, and what students' emotional connection to a piece of music is. This would further the building of emotional strength and awareness in the music classroom, and it is certainly an aspect I plan to incorporate into my classroom. There is also another way I believe that the traditional music classroom could be changed to foster more personal confidence within students, as well as improving the quality of education in the classroom. To illustrate my point, allow me to share another anecdote about my music classroom experience. The year is 2015. I'm beginning my junior year of high school. At this point, I have been singing in choir since 4th grade, playing the alto saxophone since 4th grade, and playing piano since 6th grade. I would consider myself to have an above average musical knowledge for someone my age, but here I am, sitting in general, non-auditioned choir. We're learning the piece Cantate Domino, a classic piece of chamber choir music. Unfortunately, I am bored to death, as I could sight read it with a few pitch corrections on day one. This was my daily experience in both concert choir and concert band in high school. How can we solve this issue that so many talented high school music students face? The answer? Section leaders. To breed leadership skills, ensembles should include section leaders who take on a certain amount of responsibility for their section's musicianship. Giving students of a higher experience level the chance to workshop their sections, to play a part in the teaching themselves, will allow all students a learning opportunity out of their class time. This, in addition to the emotional intuition students accumulate in the music classroom, will help foster self-esteem and confidence within students. Ultimately, the music classroom holds an invaluable place in our education system. It teaches our students emotional awareness and vulnerability, traits not often touched on in other classrooms. There is also an opportunity in the music classroom to build leadership skills in students. Because of all these values, music education should not be at the bottom of the subject hierarchy. If anything, it should be near the top.